Chair recognizes that the Lenore County Board of Education has established a quorum and calls the September the 12th, 2022 regular monthly board meeting to order. Chair recognizes Mr. Nick Hartley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let us pray. May the words spoken in this room tonight be beneficial to the students, parents, staff, and administrators in our school system. And may we be led by the guiding principle to always base our decisions on the best interest of our young people. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Mr. Brent Williams to present the agenda for tonight's meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, it is my honor and privilege to present to you for your consideration and hopefully your approval tonight's agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Is there a recommendation or a motion pertaining to the agenda?
Move to accept.
I have a motion by Mr. Davis. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Woods. We have a motion by Mr. Davis and a second by Mr. Woods to approve the board agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Chair will call for the vote. All in favor of the motion as stated, please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Dr. Outlaw?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. The agenda is set for tonight. First of all, let me just let everyone know Dr. Outlaw could not make the meeting tonight in person, so she is joining us via Zoom. I do not see any elected officials in our audience tonight. Also, Mrs. Carolyn Murchison could not be with us tonight, so we have legal counsel. Mrs. Melissa Michaud. This will be our legal counsel tonight. And I do have a couple of comments I would like to make. We would like to welcome back all students, teachers, staff, and employees to a new school year. We would like to continue to thank all of the teachers, staff, and employees, regardless of job description, for the outstanding commitment, dedication, and hard work that goes into making the students of Lenore County Public Schools successful. We want to assure all stakeholders that Lenore County Board of Education and the administration will continue to commit to do everything possible to provide for a safe and healthy environment for students, staff, and community. We want to provide a quality education for our students and a safe environment for our students, teachers, staff, and employees in order to foster learning and success. As you will hear from the administration, we had a smooth and successful opening of the new school year. Thank you to the students, teachers, staff, and employees for your dedication and hard work to make this possible. As you will also hear from the administration tonight, the state testing data has been released by the NC State Board of Education. Even though this was not our biggest year in terms of growth, it was still an outstanding academic year for Lenore County Public Schools nonetheless. Mr. Williams will highlight more good news tonight about the hard work and dedication that Lenore County Public School students and staff have put forth that has resulted in numerous honors, recognitions, and accomplishments. Chair recognizes Mr. Brent Williams to present the following Lenore County Public School honors, recognitions, and accomplishments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board and public, I'm very pleased to share with you that we have had a strong and successful start to the 2022-2023 school year. I certainly want to, as the chair shared, and I want to echo that, to thank all of our teachers, our administrators, our other staff members, our students, and our parents for all that they've done and their united efforts to make this a good and successful start of the school year. We've all been through a lot during the course of the pandemic. There are many things that haven't gone well, many things that had to be changed, amended, ended, so many things that just haven't been good or helpful in so many ways. Among all of those challenges, difficulties, and restrictions and limitations, however, there have been and continue to be many very positive things that we can point to that will help us to uplift what we're doing, our mission, our action steps every day, and to highlight what our teachers, our superstar teachers, are doing in those classrooms every day from early till late with our young people. They are the true superstars, they and everybody who works to support them every day. Our teachers, our students, and what they're doing is certainly commendable and certainly is represented in the growth from last year. As the chair noted, we have a great deal of room to go. Every school system in America and around the world, truthfully, can say that. There's so much room to cover, so many challenges left. Our mountaintop is very high, as I often say to our stakeholders, with learning gaps in learning, and sporadic learning, and learning that was interrupted, and face-to-face learning that was interrupted for a short time for some, for a longer time for others. And we see the impact of that. But our teachers are working every day in our classrooms, and they're doing such an amazing job. The growth for last year shows that progress. Growth is the element of the accountability model that I would point to first and foremost, because it shows where the student starts on day one and where he or she ends at the end of the semester in high school or in K-8 at the end of the year. And what we see is that 14 of our 16 traditional schools last year met or exceeded all growth standards set by the state of North Carolina, with many of them exceeding. And we're very proud of that. As we noted earlier, and as we always will say, first and foremost, we have a lot of ground to cover. Our mission before us is tremendous, and our challenges are many, deep and wide challenges. But our teachers are meeting those challenges every single morning. Our children, when they board those yellow buses and get in those cars to come through the drop-off lines, they are meeting those challenges. They are hearing and answering that call every single day, and it is showing. Yes, we've been through a lot, but we also can look at what's happening, the evidence of success, the evidence of learning. It is there for one and all to see. And I want to commend our teachers for their hard work every single day. I want to commend our students for their hard work, our other staff members, administrators, whatever your role is, custodian, child nutrition employee, bus driver, social worker, nurse, whatever your office staff members, and of course our parents, because we partner with you every day in these important endeavors for the children that we're also richly blessed to serve. I couldn't be happier with the start of school. We had a very smooth start of the school year. In my 30 years, one of the smoothest that I can remember. And if you factor in pandemic in there, then it's just it's an even greater accomplishment for all of our stakeholders to open the school year. Our school system enrollment continues to rise. We are very proud of that. People are choosing. It is about choice, and people have choices, and they are choosing our school system in greater and greater numbers. And we're pleased by that and proud of that. You'll hear that tonight in one of our presentations. We want to welcome all of our new students and our new parents and all of our returning parents as well for what we are certain will be our greatest year to date. Our LCPS teachers and other staff members continue to write and to submit many grant proposals at an unprecedented pace each year, and they set the new precedent by increasing the number that they submit and the number that they get. Round one, actually the deadline for the round one of the grants is this week, is the 15th. So after that, it'll be about 10 days and we should start hearing results. So I'm eagerly awaiting those results, and I'm expecting to see some very good things from Bright Ideas is first, and Bright Ideas local and statewide, and we've done very well over the last few years. We've had 5 consecutive years of increases in the overall number of dollars earned for additional instructional opportunities by our teachers in our classrooms, directly going, 100% of that money going to classrooms for teacher and student use. And I believe that this will be our 6th consecutive year of increasing that total. So again, thank you to our folks, our teachers and others who are doing that. And really, just overall, Mr. Chairman and full board, couldn't be happier with the beginning of the school year tonight. It is my honor to recognize a couple of our staff members who have been recognized by their department. 2 educators have been lauded for their positive attitude and selfless nature They were the recipients of the top annual awards presented by the Exceptional Children's Department of Lenoir County Public Schools. We will bring them in at the next board meeting and present them with a certificate and a photograph and all that, but I do want to mention them tonight to the full board. Amy Taylor, Pink Hill Elementary School, is the 2022-2023 EC Teacher of the Year, and Miss Tanisha Sutton of Contentnia Savannah K-8 School is the EC Teacher Assistant of the Year. Miss Taylor came to Pink Hill Elementary School in 2004 and has taught there her entire career. Ms. Sutton joined LCPS 7 years ago and has been at CSS for the past 6 years. Congratulations to both of these outstanding educators, and we will have a chance to bring them in and to welcome them next month to the board meeting and thank them personally. With us tonight in the back, but we will recognize her officially. We just heard the word, just got the news hot off the presses for Miss Roach, but Miss Stephanie Radford from our Exceptional Children's Department, our Exceptional Children's Instructional Coordinator, will receive the HMH Champion District Award for what our district is doing instructionally in the area of serving exceptional children. So we're proud of that. That will happen in the next few days, and by next month she'll have the award and we'll bring her up and recognize her officially. So congratulations to them. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Any questions or comments from Mr. Williams? Thank you, Mr. Williams, for highlighting those successes. Mr. Taylor, is anyone signed up? No one has signed up for public comment. Thank you, ma'am. We will now move to the presentation portion of the agenda. Chair recognizes Mr. Brent Williams, Mrs. Frances Herring, Mr. Nick Harvey to present a summary of the Lenoir County Public School System opening of the 2022-2023 school year.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did my first part in my opening, my superintendent's comments, but I will echo that again and say very strong start. I've asked Ms. Herring to present through the instructional lens and to give you a snapshot of instruction and our opening of the school year through that lens, and Mr. Harvey to do the same through the operational lens. Ms. Herring?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. We are, as Mr. Williams mentioned, we are happy to report that enrollment is up by over 100 students, and we are very excited about that. All the schools are in compliance regarding legislated class size numbers. The beginning of year or BOI window is currently open, and nearly half of all students who are required to be assessed with DIBELS have been. All the phonics materials for the magnetic phonics resource to support the science of reading have arrived, and the training is complete. The letters Unit 1 training will be complete for all elementary participants by September 23rd, and all training has been scheduled on work days. So I am happy to report that a large group of our teachers have already completed the training. We have over 80 interventionists serving our schools right now, and they've been working with students since the very first day of school. We've had professional training for our school level interventionists, and it has been very successful, and all school level lead interventionists are in regular communication with Ms. Diane Heath. I am happy to report that iPads have been distributed at every school, and both learning management systems, our Canvas that we use in our middle school and high schools, and Seesaw that we use in elementary, are in use. Prior to students returning, during the work days that we held vertical alignment professional development sessions in math, English language arts, science, and social studies with teachers 6th grade through 12th grade. We also have updated all pacing guides to align with core curriculum and the new NC check-ins. Training also took place on magnetic phonics, the North Carolina elementary literacy standards, which have recently been updated, and for DIBELS. And not to be left out, curriculum specialists and principals met to develop ways to support teachers in the science of reading and curriculum updates. Many schools have held grade level meetings with students to welcome them back and set expectations for the new year. Schools have held their first school improvement team meetings for the school year and have already started making adjustments to meet current identified needs. And just today, the science fair school coordinators met to receive information to kick off our science fair for 2023. So as you can see, we have hit the ground running, and we are teaching and learning in all of our schools. That concludes our report, Mr. Harkin.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, board members. I'd first like to begin tonight by thanking our building level custodians, maintenance workers, teachers, and staff members for preparing our schools for the return of our students. Our schools were in great shape and conducive for the best learning environment possible. Additionally, because of our annual campus beautification grants, several schools received additional funding to create curb appeal on their campuses. Thank you, Mr. Williams, for creating this opportunity at the school level. Operationally, we are off to a great start as well. We are currently rolling 135 buses daily throughout the district. We have 6 driver vacancies, however, that have impacted several schools. As of today, we have driver candidates enrolled in CDL training courses and hope to have them online and board approved as quickly as possible. We thank our parents and our students for their patience during this time. Our child nutrition department is serving approximately 3,500 meals for breakfast and approximately 4,500 lunches each day. Board members and parents are reminded that Lenore County Public Schools still operates under the CEP, Community Eligible Provision Grant, which means that all breakfast items and lunch items are served at no cost. For students, our child nutrition department is, however, offering a la carte items for sale for a small fee. We are currently awaiting approval from the Center for Safer Schools grant to purchase additional safety equipment, specifically surveillance equipment. Our walk-through metal detectors have been deployed at all of our middle and high schools, and our held hand devices have been provided to our elementary schools. We will be conducting our active shooter tabletop exercises with our school leadership as well. And we are also in the early stages of conducting our active shooter drills at the school level with the assistance of our local law enforcement partners. We are up to date at this time with all of our prescribed drills as prescribed by the General Assembly. We will continue to work with our schools to provide them with all the necessary tools to provide a safe and healthy learning environment. As you have seen in the action part of the agenda tonight, Ms. Roach will be presenting the LCPS Social Emotional Learning Plan as an action item. Our team has worked tirelessly to create a comprehensive plan to better serve our students, parents, and staff. We are committed to evaluate and monitor this progress and to make amendments when necessary. As Ms. Herron indicated, our technology department, under the leadership of Mr. White and the school level DLSs, all of our iPads have been deployed and are actively being used for student engagement at all of our schools. Lastly, in athletics, we are in the 3rd week of school. However, we are entering our 5th week of our fall sports season, almost at the midway point. I'd like to thank our principals, athletic directors, and our coaches for providing productive and safe opportunities for our student athletes. I'll answer any questions you may have.
Any questions or comments for Mr. Williams, Ms. Herring, or Mr. Harvey? Okay, thank you, Mr. Williams, Mrs. Herring, and Mr. Harvey. Again, thank you to the students, teachers, staff, and employees for your dedication, hard work, and the successful opening of a new school year. Chair recognizes Mrs. Frances Herring to present an overview of the Lenore County Public School System state testing data for the 2021-2022 school year.
Good evening, board members. Tonight, I am providing you a brief summary, I promise, of the 2021-2022 accountability results for both the state and Lenore County Public Schools. According to the State Accountability Dashboard, only 34% of North Carolina students who tested during the 21-22 school year are college and career ready, meaning they made a 3, 4, or 5 on end of grade or end of course tests. When the data was presented by Dr. Michael Mayer, Deputy State Superintendent, he shared his collective concern for the state because performance on the tests had dropped for so many students across racial, economic, and learning differences. In its presentation to the state board, DPI officials said proficiency declined in 21-22 compared to the last pre-pandemic school year, but also that schools made gains compared to the 2021 school year, the first full year with pandemic challenges. The accountability model identifies 1,097 out of 2,595 schools in North Carolina as D or F schools, an increase across the state of 543 schools from the school year 18-19. The accountability model passed by the General Assembly in 2013 figures school grades by putting 80% weight on standardized test scores and 20% on whether student performance grew relative to expectations. The law labels schools with D or F grades that either met or did not meet growth expectations as low performing. 864 schools across the state now carry a low performing designation, up by 376 from the 18-19 school year. Dr. Mayer, Deputy Superintendent, said to the State Board, quote, "I will ask that no one else refer to these schools as low-performing schools. They are schools designated as low-performing." He indicated that it matters because they are designated based on a formula that prioritizes proficiency, and we are seeing lower rates of proficiency due to a pandemic. He said it is not an accurate reflection of the efforts and progress of teachers and school leaders throughout the state. So as I present this information to you, please remember that growth is what moves our students forward. The current model of 80%, 20% simply sets teachers up for criticism every year. Dr. Mayer said, "For anyone who seeks to criticize educators based on the release of this data, you are wrong," adding that educators are first responders and professionals, and we should be lifting them up for that because that's what they are. With that said, 88% of our schools met or exceeded growth last year, and this is the second highest growth Lenore County Public Schools has seen in the past 15 years. This is a point of great pride in our students' hard work, our teachers' dedication, our principals' leadership, and our parents and community support. Just a few highlights from the middle schools. Frink exceeded growth in the Black subpopulation, Hispanic, economically disadvantaged, and students with disability subgroups. And they overall exceeded growth in reading and math. Rochelle Middle School met growth in all subgroups, including Black subgroup, economically disadvantaged, and students with disabilities, even though it was scored an F. Contentia Savannah exceeded growth in their Black subgroup and overall exceeded growth in reading. Woodington Middle School exceeded overall growth in reading. Here is how our schools were designated with regards to growth standards. And the letter grades that were given to them are in parentheses to the side of the school. This slide looks busy, but I promise. It shows the proficiency scores for math 3rd through 8th grade and how we've compared over the past 3 years and how we compared to the state. You will notice 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade across the top and 6th, 7th, and 8th grade across the bottom. The orange bar is the 18-19 school year. The yellow bar in the center is the 2021 school year. And the green bar is last year's data for 21-22. The 3 bars on the left of each graph, so here, are the state of North Carolina. And the 3 bars to the right are Lenore County Public Schools data. So you can see there was a dip in 2020-21 across the board in the state of North Carolina and in Lenore County, but you can also see the rebound at the same time. In every graph, in every grade, and every subject, there's a significant drop in that 2021 school year, that yellow bar. But there's an increase or rebound in every grade and every subject this past school year, as indicated by the green bars. You can also see the same trend with 5th and 8th grade science as well. The 4-year cohort graduation rate is in line with data trends and in line with the state results as well. DIBELS for 21-22. DIBELS stands for Dynamic Indicators of Basic Early Literacy Skills. The purpose of DIBELS is to provide educators with standards for gauging the status and progress of all students. DIBELS subtests measure critical skills and abilities that are necessary for reading success, and most offer both benchmark and progress monitoring forms. In North Carolina, we are required to administer DIBELS to all kindergarten through 3rd grade students. DIBELS is color-coded. Red indicates that students are struggling to access literacy skills. Yellow indicates a warning that students could begin to struggle. And green indicates students are on target. And blue indicates that students are accessing literacy beyond their grade level. This slide has kindergarten on the top and 1st grade on the bottom. The first line in each is the BOY, the beginning of year. This right here, BOY. The middle line is the MOY, or middle of year assessment results, and the bottom line in each indicates the EOY, or end of year results. You can see that as the year progresses, the red level and yellow levels get shorter, and the green and the blue levels get longer. This indicates tremendous student growth. And as you have an opportunity to study the presentation as it was uploaded, these are numbers here. These are actual student numbers and percentages that are indicated under the colors. This slide shows 2nd grade DIBELS on top and 3rd grade DIBELS on the bottom. While the change is not as extreme in 2nd and 3rd grade, the trend is steady. The greens and blue grow exponentially. This chart is read from the top left corner to the bottom right corner, following cohorts of students from year to year. This particular chart maps reading. And these charts are very important for us because they allow us to chart students as they progress through the grades. This is the reading, and this is the math cohorts. Every year we choose to hold what we call a short summer session. It lasts for 1 week right after school gets out. We identify students who are very close to making proficiency on the state end of grade or end of course exam and have them come in for 3 days of intensive test taking strategies and review, followed with an opportunity to retest. The following data will show you how beneficial this opportunity is for students and our district. The yellow bar on the right shows the increase in proficiency scores as a result of the short summer session. So you see in all grade levels, 3rd, 4th, 5th, math and reading, we made gains in proficiency during our short summer session. It is a tremendous amount of growth in a short period of time. Our summer biology had gains. Summer English 2 had gains. The summer math 1 had a few gains. Summer math 3, we probably had 1 or 2. And then this is our MAPS data. So MAPS is our universal screener. We're required to have a universal screener for all of our students. And we use the NWEA MAPS screener for reading and for math. And these are the reading results from last year. As you can see, in every grade, 4th through 8th, and we don't do MAPS below 4th grade because we have DIBELS. That helps us assess our reading. As you can see, every grade, 4th down here, all the way through 8th grade here, had an increase in learning from the fall, which is the orange bar. That was the beginning of year assessment in the winter. And then the middle of year, which is the gold bar. And then an even great and final gain at the end of the year, as as shown with the green bar. And this is the data that we use to drive our day-to-day instruction. Our universal screener for math is for kindergarten through 8th grade, so there's no data on this slide. And you can see the same trend in math that we had in reading, a steady build and improvement as the year went on. And that concludes my summary of the assessment and testing results for the 21-22 school year. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any
Question.
questions or comments from Mrs. Harry?
Not for Ms. Herring, I have one for the attorney. Where I agree with Ms. Herring's, what she read about Dr. Mary, what he said about the 80-20, which we've always knew was not an accurate depiction of what our children are learning. Just isn't fair to have 80% on proficiency on a test and 20% on growth, and growth really shows us what the children are doing. Is there any buzz around the legislature at all about revisiting this 80-20?
There's been a lot of talk about that.
Do I need to press anything? Okay. All right. Not that I'm aware of. So, and, you know, unfortunately, the low performing schools statute and the low performing district statute still on the books, you know, in terms, you aren't a low performing district, but, you know, that statute is still on the books requiring districts to take certain actions after they release these performance scores.
And what did he say you rather call them, rather than low performing? What did he say?
He said instead of calling them low-performing schools, they identify them as being designated as low.
Yeah, and I like that because what happens is, and everybody knows when people look to move into a new school district, that's one thing they go at. They look at the school performance, and they are misled or misguided by the A through F designations. So I like the fact they said designated, doesn't mean that they are. And I want the parents and everybody to understand what the A through F is not what the kids actually are learning. It's just a grade that is given on a rule that's not fair, 80-20.
Are there any more comments or questions from Mrs. Harry? Okay, thank you, Mrs. Harry, for your report. I believe now, taking into consideration the circumstances of the last 3 years, this was an outstanding academic school year for Lenore County Public Schools. Chair recognizes Mrs. Frances Herring to present an overview of the Lenore County Public School System school improvement process for the 2022-2023 school year.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and board members. So in light of the fact that we know that we have work to do, I mentioned in my opening comments that our school improvement teams have already met at least once and have already started to make adjustments in instruction to meet the needs identified in each school. So we are in continuous oversight. Our commitment to school improvement includes a seamless process composed of layers of cyclical ongoing oversight that includes September presentations of the school improvement plans to the leadership team here at Central Services and to you board members. We have monthly school visits by the district leadership team to the schools. By the end of the year, we would have visited each school. We have a January review of the school improvement plans. Our principals come back in after the first semester to give us an update. We have an annual summer board and administrator retreats, and we have an urgency momentum each spring where we talk about how urgent it is to make every minute count up until exams. This is our schedule for this year. I understand that Ms. Taylor has sent an email to you with the dates and the times for the school improvement plan presentations. They will be here in this boardroom. We start September the 19th, and that is a full day. We'll begin at 8:30. We'll have a break for lunch, and then we will end the day at 4:45. We'll skip the 20th, and on September 21st, we have 3 morning presentations. All of our high schools will actually be on September 21st. Those are the times listed there. And then finally, on September 22nd, we'll wrap up with the last 4 elementary schools in the afternoon. It says 1 a.m., it means 1 p.m. I apologize. I will not be here at 1 a.m. You're welcome to call and we'll be lunch. But we will be here that afternoon, September 22nd. So in October will be the annual presentation of the school improvement plans that I will present to you at our October 3rd board meeting. The board will have a month. You will have a month to read and inquire about each plan. And then at the November meeting, the school improvement plans will be an action item for your approval at our meeting November 7th. And then they are submitted, or actually they're just pulled up through NC Star. Submission is required to DPI by the first week in December. It's usually about the 4th or 5th. So we are already in the progress of school improvement. And that concludes my report. Do you have any questions?
Yes, Mr. Anderson.
Ms. Herron.
Yes, sir.
I want to give you a chance to articulate the significance of the 80 interventionists that we're employing this school year, their purpose, and how that kind of differs from what we have traditionally done in the school improvement process.
Absolutely. That's a great question. So this is the first time we have ever put specific interventionists in the schools with the sole purpose of working with particularly identified students in small groups to meet identified learning gaps.
But it's even beyond that. It's defining what an interventionist is as differentiated from traditional remediation, which was driven toward group needs. And this is really the concept, the founding principles of our interventionist program is that we would individualize instruction, individualize interventions, and work collaboratively, have the teachers work collaboratively with the interventionists, most of whom are retired educators, master teachers who already have been there and they've demonstrated success in the classroom, and to pair the students who are struggling with high quality teachers. But that's the first piece of it. But the second, in my opinion, just as important a piece of it is creating a plan for each student and prescribing based on the student's individual needs what he or she, what pathway he or she needs to achieve a greater level of success in the classroom, and to have that really be adaptive and move with the students through in a small group setting. And we've put down that traditional remediation might be 15 students in there, might be 11 students in there, 12 students in there, but we're looking at 3 to 5 students being ideal, fewer than 6 being our target thing, and that's consistent with research being multiple contacts a week with fewer than 6 students in a group is ideal and is supported by research to be effective. And we've seen that research upheld and affirmed in practice by our teachers. And we just haven't been able to do that before with resources, but with the recovery funds and with our dynamic teachers out there and our administrators and the team here working together, we've designed this. And we believe that it's a model, we believe that it's innovation, but the bottom line is it's working for our kids, and you're seeing it work every day, so we're very proud of it.
We are very proud of it, and there was a lot of pre-planning that went into our interventionist program. It was not haphazard. We did actually begin it in the spring, but we had an opportunity to I think we're nearly fully staffed with our interventionists with the resources that we have with the ESSER funds. But we were able to, because it's begun in the spring, and because we had some really significant pre-planning, we really, honest to goodness, had interventionists in the building the first day of school. And we were working with students based on their end-of-year data from last year.
And that's never been possible before.
That's absolutely right. We've never done that before, been able to do that.
My point is, it's understood that our kids have been dealt a curveball the past couple of years. But this is an opportunity to express to the community and our parents that them identified where individual students are, and we have something in place that is trying to bring them up to snuff. And it's a 2-year process. Understand that the recovery is not going to take just 1 year. It's going to take multiple years. But we have a specific strategy that's been applied to try to bring our kids up.
Any more questions for Mrs. Herring? Or comments? Thank you, Mrs. Herring. And as always, board members, your participation in this process is certainly welcome. Chair recognizes Mr. Brett Williams to present the North Carolina School Board Association policies to lead the school's policy review in response to recent legislative action.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, the North Carolina School Boards Association has submitted the policy revisions recommendations that you see before you tonight, as Chair noted, from the policies to lead schools subscription in response to recent legislative action. The policies are submitted tonight for board review and consideration, with subsequent action anticipated at a future meeting.
Any questions from Mr. Williams? Thank you, Mr. Williams. Board members, if you have any questions in review of these policies, please contact Mr. Williams. As Mr. Williams says, these policies will come back to the board for action at a subsequent meeting. Chair recognizes Mr. Eric Adams to present the August 2022 financial report.
Thank you. Good evening, board members. The August 2022 financial report summarizes budget and year-to-date activity for all the North County Board of Education funds as of August 31st. Additionally, the report presents the unadjusted local current expense fund balance in the same time period. As you have an opportunity to review the report, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments from Mr. Adams? Okay, thank you, Mr. Adams.
Thank you.
We will now move to the action portion of the agenda. Chair recognizes Mr. Eric Adams to present budget amendment number 1 for the 2022-2023 fiscal year.
Thank you again. Budget amendment number 1 is being used to revise the working budget of Lenore County Board of Education to reflect changes that have occurred throughout the fiscal year. The budget amendment is being made to State Public School Fund for state revisions that we've received since the initial allotments, which included some additional allocations, as well as funding for the financing of school buses in our capital outlay fund. As you have an opportunity to review, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from Mr. Adams? Thank you, Mr. Adams. Is there a recommendation or a motion pertaining to budget amendment number 1? Motion from Mr. Anderson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Davis. We have a motion by Mr. Anderson and a second by Mr. Davis to approve budget amendment number 1 for the 2022-2023 fiscal year as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Chair will call for the vote. All in favor of the motion as stated, please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Dr. Outlaw. Dr. Outlaw, can you hear us?
She's on mute.
She said
Yes. I
Okay.
see her.
She
She got herself muted.
Raise your hand if you agree with the motion. Thank you, Dr. Outlaw. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Adams. Chair recognizes Mrs. Vivian Roach to present the Lenore County Public School System Improvement Plan for Social Emotional Learning and School Mental Health for the 2022-2023 school year.
Good evening, board members. Good evening.
Good evening. Don't sound excited.
I would like to present to the board tonight the social emotional learning and school mental health policy for your approval. The state board has passed legislation requiring that each public school unit adopt and implement a plan for promoting student mental health and well-being and for assessing and improving upon the effectiveness of support for mental and social-emotional health of the students and staff. This plan will cover grades K through 12. Included in this legislation is training of all certified staff on 6 selected topics mandated in this legislation. The topics include youth mental health, suicide prevention, substance abuse, sexual abuse prevention, sex trafficking prevention, and teenage dating violence. The first training that is required will require 6 hours of training initially, and then every year after it will be 2 hours per year at least. And it has to do, every year an annual report is due to DPI, proven to DPI that we have basically done what is required. And our vision in terms of Lenoir County Schools is to make sure we provide ethical and competent therapeutic services. We're trying to break the barriers for the mental health needs in our community and in our schools. You'll see number 1, improvement to existing supports, implement Panorama. And you might say, what is Panorama? It is both an early warning system and a data warehouse. It pulls out assessment data, it pulls out grades, attendance information, and behavior data from all sources and puts it into a visual dashboard. This allows teachers and administration to quickly and easily intervene when a student is in need. So they can look individually at a student, or they can look at a group of students. Increased number of specialized instructional support staff. We've done that through the mental health clinicians that we have employed this year, as well as some behavior support, some additional behavior support to assist with some of the needs. Introduce Handle with Care. Handle with Care is when a police officer, if something happens in the community, basically what we're trying to set up is that they come to the school and they'll just have a sheet of paper with the student's name, not so much a lot of the information, but let them know that something has occurred overnight in the community. And then that way the mental health clinician and the counselors can get up with the student and let the teachers know what's going on with a particular student during the day, so they'll know how to handle that particular student and situation. Become a trauma-informed school district. Dealing with trauma, we have our mental health clinicians that are working with the schools regarding trauma and the signs of things that they need to look for in terms of when there's trauma with a given student. So they'll know how to identify some of the characteristics. Educational handbook is to help with out-of-school suspension, in-school suspension, things of that nature where it's tracked. And this is a pilot program that we're using now in about 6 or 7 of our schools this year to see if that's something we'd like to continue. Integration of social-emotional learning strategies. MTSS has been here for a few years. We have picked up PBIS the last couple of years and just advancing that a little bit more, looking at the school-wide expectations. So in any school you go in, you can tell what the matrix says in terms of what the expectation is in terms of behaviors in a given school. Logical, consistent consequences are usually also part of that process. The number 3, early identification of at-risk students. The mental health support team will be available to assist schools, and they're in the schools, and provide the support that a school needs. I think we've had over 42 incidents since school has started already where they have been involved. Panorama, mental health survey, again, going back to that Panorama, it has the surveys of students, and that will give teachers and staff at the school's idea of a student that they may need to refer for mental health support or social and emotional needs. The training, mental health trainings is where the mental health clinicians will work with staffs in the various schools on mental health issues. And then, of course, our student success officer to support. Referral, treatment, and reentry. If a child is referred, again, is being able to refer to outside agencies, the providers, so that they can support us in terms of a child needing some mental health services outside of the school. And then we have a memorandum of understanding, basically is an agreement between us, Lenore County Public Schools, and a private provider that may come in and provide some services to support the school system in a particular school or schools. And implementing newly created crisis manual, and that's a manual that has been created with processes and procedures of how to operate various crises that may occur within the school district. And do you have any questions?
Just a comment.
Yes, Mr. Smith.
Just glad to see that this has been implemented. I think it's a real need in our schools these days. We see more socially emotional children, and I think this is really going to help. It seems to be that it's just another layer, another layer on the MTSS is what pretty much what it looks like. Yeah, it looks good. I read. There was a lot of read, but I did read.
It is.
Most of it.
There's a
It's
lot
good.
to the plan,
Yeah.
too. Yes.
About 57 pages.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
It's good read.
Any other
Any questions
questions?
for Mrs. Roach? Okay, thank you, Mrs. Roach. Is there a recommendation or a motion pertaining to the school improvement plan for social, emotional learning, and school mental health?
Move to approve.
Have a motion by Mr. Smith. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. King. We have a motion by Mr. Smith and a second by Mr. King to approve the Lenore County School System Improvement Plan for Social, Emotional Learning, and School Mental Health for the 2022-2023 school year as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Chair will call for the vote. All in favor of the motion as stated, please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Is that a yes, Dr. Outlaw? Yes. Thank you, Dr. Outlaw. Motion carries. Thank you again. Chair recognizes Mrs. Frances Herring to present out-of-state school field trips for North Lenore FFA and North Lenore cheerleaders.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two out-of-state field trip requests for your consideration this evening. They are both from North Lenore High School. One was submitted by the North Lenore cheerleading coach, Coach Gardner. It's for the girls to, for the cheer teams to attend the UCA National High School Cheer Competition in Orlando, Florida. The dates of the visit are this coming February, the 8th to the 12th of February. And while they're there, they will also see the ESPN Worldwide Sports Arena, Universal Studios, and Islands of Adventure. So I think that will be a very worthwhile adventure for them. And the North Lenore FFA will ask again to attend the National Convention in Indianapolis. It is October 24th through the 30th, so it is next month. So we ask respectfully for your approval of both of these out-of-state field trips.
Any questions for Mrs. Herring? Thank you, Mrs. Herring. Is there a recommendation or motion pertaining to the out-of-state school trips, field trips?
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Davis. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Wood. We have a motion by Mr. Davis and a second by Mr. Wood to approve the North Lenore FFA and North Lenore cheerleader out-of-state field trips as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Chair will call for the vote. All in favor of the motion as stated, please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Is that a yes, Dr. Outlaw? Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Mr. Nick Harvey to present surplus items.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The attached items are from the Career and Technical Education Department tonight. They are submitted for your approval to be deemed surplus. Any proceeds derived from the sale shall be returned to their department. And tonight you have ag education textbooks.
Any questions for Mr. Harvey? Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Is there a recommendation or motion pertaining to surplus items?
Move to sell surplus items.
Motion by Mr. Davis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Smith. A motion by Mr. Davis and a second by Mr. Smith to approve the surplus items as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, chair will call for the vote. All in favor of the motion as stated, please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Yes, Dr. Outlaw? Thank you. Motion carries. Is there a recommendation or motion pertaining to closed session?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the North Carolina Board of Education enter into closed session under North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11 to prevent the disclosure of confidential personnel files, to consult with the board's attorney in order to preserve their attorney-client privilege, and to consider matters relating to the initial employment of an individual employee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Is that you, Mr. Smith?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we got a motion by Mr. Anderson and a second by Mr. Smith to move the closed session. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, chair will call for the vote. All in favor of the motion as stated, please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed? Yes, Dr. Outlaw? Thank you. Motion carries. We are now in closed session. Chair recognizes that the Lenore County Board of Education is back in open session. Is there a recommendation or motion pertaining to the personnel recommendations?
Move to approve the personnel report with the addendum.
Motion by Mr. Smith, is there a second? Second by Mr. Woods. We have a motion by Mr. Smith and a second by Mr. Woods to approve the monthly personnel recommendations with the addendum as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, chair will call for the vote. All in favor of the motion as stated, please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Dr. Outlaw? Yes?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. With no further business to come before this board, is there a recommendation or motion pertaining to adjournment?
Move to adjourn.
Got a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Got a second. We have a motion by Mr. Anderson and a second by Mr. Davis to adjourn the September 12th, 2022 regular monthly board meeting. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, chair will call for the vote. All in favor of the motion as stated, please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Dr. Outlaw? Yes?
Yes.
Motion carried. Meeting is adjourned. Everyone, please stay safe.